my I was in my rookie position, and I would acknowledge we ran significantly over. So I'm committed to not have that happen again. And I apologize for the last meeting running on so long. So bear with me if I try and move things along here to keep us on track for our hour and a half. So that said, up as our secretary's report, Jamie, can you chime in on this one?
Yeah, I just want to make sure we receive the minutes.
Yep.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Any changes, edits, anything like that?
Nope.
No.
Nope. All right. Shall we move to accept those minutes? Do I have a first?
I move to accept them.
Okay, Alan first and a second. I see Roger raising his hand. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. That said, Clark, over to you with the treasurer's report, please.
Okay, our Sable Palm balance is now $15,992.97.
Well, good. Any questions of anybody about that? Okay. Moving ahead, we have two guest speakers with us today, and I'm happy Ken suggested Vicki. And Ken, may I ask you to introduce Vicki, and then Vicki and I did spend some time on the phone yesterday, and we look forward to her remarks.
I don't see her. Is she on?
I am.
Oh, there you are.
Yes,
Okay.
I have a backup.
Oh, there you are. I see you. Well, Vicki Oldham has been in Sarasota for a long, long time and has been involved in African-American history and other issues, not just in Newtown, but all over Sarasota and Manatee counties. And recently she came up with a project which is called the Sarasota African-American Coalition. And she has petitioned the city to allow her organization to lease the property, the Leonard Reed House, which is going to be moved from Rosemary District to Newtown at Orange and MLK, and to lease not only the building, but the property. The property's a bit larger. And they have a concept of actually enlarging the property with additional construction later on as they raise the money. The great thing I like about the idea is that it doesn't cost the city anything. They're going to pay the city for the lease, and they're going to raise the money to build the new larger facility there. So I'll leave it at that. And Vicki, you go ahead from there.
Okay, thank you so much, Ken. And thank you so much, Mr. Gannon, for meeting with me earlier to go over my PowerPoint. I don't see it yet.
Okay, I'll start it up now.
Okay.
Let me add it up there now.
But it has been a great pleasure of mine to be involved with Newtown Alive. This was something that the city was looking for a consultant to do to document the African-American community's history. And I submitted a proposal, and the city of Sarasota selected my proposal. Next slide, please.
It should be advancing.
Not yet, but anyway, I can say this.
There we go.
There you go. Okay, so the city of Sarasota selected my proposal, and what I did was pull together collaborative partnerships like scholars and residents, volunteers came out of the woodwork, and donors also to help me put this project together. Next slide. And so what we did was, we did what the city asked us to do, which was develop a research report, oral history interviews, a website, historic markers, and you're seeing them in this slide. Also, the digital imprint, a mobile app. We were also able to leverage this work. So go ahead, next slide, thank you. So in 2019, it seemed to me, after we had finished all of what the city had asked us to do in phase 1 and phase 2, I proposed a phase 3, which was opening an art center and history museum. And the city of Sarasota, the commissioners at that time, did approve my petition. They allowed me to have $200,000 of a seed grant to jumpstart the work. And the work would mean that a new nonprofit was started, and I would go about looking for sites to put an art center and history museum on. And so, well, there were some other deliverables that I had to hit also. Next slide. One of those deliverables was setting up the Sarasota African American Cultural Coalition. This is our mission right here: to preserve, celebrate, and share the cultural, artistic, and historic heritage of African Americans in Sarasota and beyond. Next slide. So local history is our priority. And so what we'd like to do in this Art Center and History Museum is plan workshops and classes and performances. We'd like to have exhibitions. I know that you've traveled the country and the world and been to museums. Well, we won't have a big African American museum such as what they have in DC, but for a city the size of Sarasota, we'd like to develop a museum that has exhibitions, a permanent exhibition, traveling exhibition. We'd like to do talks, certainly performances, school tours. The visuals that you're seeing now is of the Buck O'Neill Right on Time exhibit. We were able to get that exhibition on loan from Kansas City. As you know, Buck O'Neill was a Negro League baseball player, and he was brought up right here in Sarasota. Interestingly, this year, they're going to consider him for the Baseball Hall of Fame again, and fingers crossed he'll get it this time. Next slide. So we want to temporarily start our museum in the historic Leonard Reed House. Right now, it's located on 7th Street in the Rosemary District. The house will be moved. The owner has deeded this house to the city of Sarasota, and the city has purchased some property at Orange Avenue and Dr. King Way. It's a block from the Ringling College of Art and Design. And we want to program right there in that house. It is in the master plan that an art center be located along that corridor. Next slide. So I have looked at 20 locations in the last year since we started this project. Some were on school property like Booker High School. Well, I looked at Booker High School and Booker Middle and Booker Elementary School, but there was no available property to build something on school property. And then I looked at sites outside of the boundaries of the Newtown CRA. Some sites that I looked at were too small. Some were just not available. And then you're looking at the Marion Anderson parcel. Solid waste mitigation is needed to the tune of $7 million. So needless to say, that is not a preferred site. Next slide. The preferred site is at Orange Avenue and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Way, right next to where the Leonard Reed House will be moved. We can build a facility on 1.3 acres of land there, and the city owns that property. We will raise that money in a number of ways, which I'll talk about in an upcoming slide. Thank you. I'm not going to go through all 10 reasons here, but I can tell you that this facility is in the master plan. It's close to Ringling and Booker High School. It's within walking distance of children and residents. And the thing that really pulls on my heartstrings is this. It's shovel ready. I know that children will be coming through that facility. And in that way, we'll be able to talk with them and find out what direction they're headed in, and perhaps match them with mentors who can set them on the right direction. And the right direction, in my view, is getting an education and heading to college or a trade school so that they can learn some sort of trade, so that they can be able to take care of their families in adulthood. Next. The economic impact of such a facility. Well, I talked with Virginia Haley at Visit Sarasota, also the EDC, and found out this data that Sarasota County attracts 2.5 million visitors. Museum sites and similar locations generate that kind of money in employment revenues, and museums create jobs. There is what's called a Keynesian effect for those of you who have your MBAs or who are business majors. Next slide. We have a fundraising plan for phase 1 of our new construction project. We're planning to raise $5 million to build phase 1, and this is how, through individual donors. We're in a quiet phase now, and contributors are donating money. They see what we're doing and they like what we're doing, especially through the trolley tours, especially through those trolley tours that bring residents into the community to actually engage with our history. We'll do it through foundations and corporations and a state of Florida appropriation. There is our timeline. The timeline will need to be adjusted. We're not going to move that Reed House until August, September at this point. But we'll kick off a fundraising campaign, and then we're going to renovate the Reed House. Next slide. So here's the ask. I'm here to ask members of this condo association to do this. It's a simple one, I think. When I present this plan before the Sarasota City Commission on July 6th, please join me at City Hall. And I'm hoping that you'll feel led to speak on our behalf for 3 minutes. Speak and ask the city to vote, yes, on the lease agreement for the Leonard Reed House, but also to allow us 5 years to raise the money in order to get that new construction extension of an art center and history museum built. It's as simple as that. We need it. We have not dealt with African-American history well in Sarasota. Neither have we done it in the rest of the country. So I am proud to say that Sarasota is ahead of the pack in some Florida cities. So thank you so much for allowing me to speak today, and I'm hoping that I haven't run over my 10 minutes of time.
Vicki, can I ask a question and then make a couple more comments? You said July 7th for the city commission meeting. Is it June or July?
I'm sorry, it's July 6th, Ken. That
July
June,
6th?
Yes, the date in June was changed by the city manager.
Well, I think Vicki made my point that, you know, the city, Vicki and her group are not asking for money from the taxpayer. They are going to raise the money. And the question you might ask is, do they have a strong enough board to do that? And I can tell you that besides Vicki, they have on their board Dr. Washington Hill. Many of you may recognize that name. He is the founder of the high-risk pregnancy program at Sarasota Memorial Hospital. And he's been on the hospital staff for many years. She also has Jetson Grimes, who's been an activist in Newtown for many, many years.
Yes, Judge Charles Williams is on our board as well.
Right.
Jennifer Romanecki, and we have some young people that are, say, fourth generation Newtown residents, because we feel like we need that young voice to be represented on that board.
And you also have Reverend Brock Leach, Julie
Yeah.
Leach's husband, and Dr. Lawrence Miller, who used to be assistant city manager when I was on the city commission. So you might ask, can she raise $5 million? The answer, I think, is obvious in the population of the board. It's a very strong board.
Yes, it
Jennifer
is.
just announced she raised $3 more million this past week or 2 weeks for the Selby project. So what I would
Did
like
we
to
say
do-
that Jennifer Romanecki is on the board? And I want to say this, she has been a real mentor for me, a real mentor. She promised that she would assist in any way that she could to help me stand up this art center, and she has kept her promise, I must say.
And so I would like to make a motion that the board endorse Vicky's request to the city commission for the lease of the Leonard Reed House for the projects that she just laid out for the Sarasota African American Cultural Coalition.
I'll
That's
second
a
that.
motion. Did we have a
Okay,
second?
I thought I saw a second. Was that you, Roger? Or, Alan?
Alan or Roger
Okay.
both.
Okay, so we have a motion with a second. May we have a vote? All those in favor?
Could I just ask Vicky a question? Vicky, what's the historical significance of the Leonard Reed House
Oh,
as
great.
doing something that doesn't require a move or renovation? What's the
Well,
intrinsic value?
Oh, the significance is this. In 1900, Leonard Reed came to Sarasota with some Italian fishermen. Those of you who are mariners, may not believe this story, but he shared this with his family. His daughter shared it in an oral history interview. They came by Sarasota to refuel their boat. Leonard came into the Rosemary, what we know as the Rosemary District today, to meet the African-American community members. That's where they lived at the time. As the story goes, there was an event happening. He stayed too long. The boat left him. He had to pick up odd jobs here in Sarasota. The people recognized him to be a learned man, educated. They introduced him to Colonel John Gillespie, who was the first mayor of Sarasota, and Leonard became Colonel Gillespie's right-hand man. He ran his house. He was there as Colonel Gillespie laid out the map, the golf courses throughout the state of Florida and, here. So very, very significant. He set up the second African-American church, Payne Chapel, AME Church here. He was a community leader and beloved by Sarasota residents, the pioneers. And we stopped by the Woodlawn Cemetery to pay homage to his family that's in a row buried in that Woodlawn Cemetery.
Okay, well, thanks, Vicky, for that. And again, we have a motion seconded. Do we have a vote on this motion of Ken's? Okay, and I don't know what the count is there, but Patrick, can you help me with?
I wasn't watching all the hands. Sorry. Looks like it's unanimous. We'll see. Yes,
Okay,
some
so
are not visible.
so moved and so passed. Thank you, Bob, and thank you, Vicky.
Thank
Now
you.
on, thank you, Vicky. And now on to Jamie. Jamie, would you help introduce our next speaker? And again, we are running a little bit behind time, so if we could just stick to a pretty tight timeline, it'd sure be appreciated. Jamie?
Yeah, no problem. I won't say much. I'll let Daryl speak for himself. I had a chance recently to meet with Daryl Pitts, who runs a very wonderful organization by the name of ITN Suncoast, which provides transportation for seniors. So I'll let him take it from here. And I do believe we have a couple slides, a couple pieces of paper that he wants to present. So.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm Daryl Pitts. I am the Executive Director / President of ITN Suncoast. And I would like to ask if someone has the slide available, or could you share your screen with me?
What slide are we talking about?
My 5 great benefits of
Those are the
ITN
ones that
Suncoast.
I sent those
Okay.
to you a little while ago.
Right, I just want to make sure we presented the right one. Hang on.
Thank you so much for that. Thanks for having me. We'll start with our history. Our organization is an affiliate of an organization that is based out of Portland, Maine, called IT in America. So we're rich in history and tradition in that this organization, IT in America, was founded and started in 1995. And ITN stands for Independent Transportation Network, and it is our mission to help people age 60 plus and adults with vision challenges maintain their independence and live joyful and meaningful lives by connecting them to each other in the community. And currently we provide transportation services in Manatee and Sarasota County. So what we do is we provide rides. If you can think of an Uber and Lyft, that's exactly how we operate, except for we provide transportations to seniors that are 60 and older, and we take them anywhere from doctor's visits to the grocery store, take them to the airport, anywhere in Sarasota, Manatee County where they want to go to, we provide them transportation to those destinations. Our rides are very affordable, and we also have trained drivers, and we have volunteered and paid drivers to do the rides for our seniors. And our community impact, we have given over now 100,000 rides. We've driven over 600,000 miles, and we have over 2,000 riders. And if you look at the community impact, this right here gives you the graphics of where our rides are concentrated and the ride purpose. Our main goal right now is to help seniors live an independent and quality and healthy lifestyle. And the way we do that is, if you can think about it, if you're visually impaired or physically impaired, you have dementia, you have, some sort of cancer, or you just can't drive because you can't see any longer, think about you losing your independence. And that could be a very, very challenging and distraught situation for a lot of people that can't drive any longer. So we also help decrease isolation. We help people live independent lifestyles by getting them out the house. Over 64% of our members have a modest income of 38,000. I'm sorry, 38% of them have an income of 25,000 or below on an annual basis. And most of our riders don't have family or friends to depend on. So we help them maintain their independence by giving them rides to wherever they want to go. Ways to help us transport more visually impaired seniors in need. A lot of people ask how we, get funded. Well, we get funded by individual donations, grants, private funds. I write all the grants, and I raise, the primary fundraiser of the organization along with my board. And we get funding, from, a variety of other sources as well. But we don't write a lot of county grants because our founder does not want us using taxpayer dollars to, support our organization. She believes that if we connect ourselves to the community, that the community can help support the organization. Drivers, you can be a volunteer. That's another way to make a difference. We have volunteer drivers and we have paid drivers. Our volunteer drivers can drive anytime they want. It's flexible. There's no set hours for you to drive. You can, choose when you want to drive. Our paid drivers are 1099 drivers, are not employees. And so once again, there's flexible hours and you can drive whenever you like. Our hours of operation currently are from 7 a.m. through 7 p.m. We're not operating on weekends at the moment. We usually operate 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, but COVID has put a stop to that. So currently we're just doing Monday through Friday right now. And we're also looking for partners. We're looking for people to partner with us on a variety of levels as well. From our customers, here's a piece here, how we help make their life easier. We help them feel less of a burden on others, because we have people that have relatives here, a lot don't, and they have to depend on family members to take them places. And that's not easy when you have people that depend on that have to go to work.
Well, Daryl,
And-
thanks so much. Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No,
cut
you're
you off.
fine. I was just trying to make this quick and brief for you. I told James I was going to
Sure.
try to keep it to 5 minutes, so I was trying to spit everything out that I could without being long-winded, but yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. All right, well, thanks so much, Daryl, for that. That was informative, and Jamie, thanks for the introduction. Thanks to both of our guests today, and I certainly learned some things myself, and sure the rest of the board did. Moving along, under old business, we have the status of the annual condo survey, and Bob, looks like you got some results and some progress here, and would you update us, please?
Sure will. As of today, there of the 40 surveys we sent out, we've received 27 back. Our goal was to get at least 30. I don't understand why 1350 Main hasn't responded yet, but maybe if we have a board member who lives there could possibly prod them along. And I believe Valencia is going to be submitting a survey hopefully soon. So Sheila is continuing to contact all the non-responders to see if we can't get a response. And in some cases, we're going back to tighten up some of the numbers, whether it's square footage maintenance fees or percentage of insurance cost increase, which has gone up. We've been warned of it. It's generally ballooning. So the survey is incredibly useful, even as we're putting it together. So at some point, we're going to need to, I believe, get together perhaps Patrick, yourself, and Sheila, and figure out how we're going to physically present this once it's completed.
Well, great. Any comments, Patrick?
Yeah, I'll just add, while the data is incomplete, as Bob's given the thing there, we still have more to be added. When we did an analysis a week or so ago with maybe just 50% of the condos responding, we began to see some interesting trends. And one reason why we're asking any of their member representatives to go back to your condo if you've not responded or if you've left out some of the financial data, when we can aggregate that, it begins to give us a bigger picture. For instance, just on the preliminary data, if we took the average number of staffing hired or employed by each of our condos and did some averaging per number of units and projected it out based upon the total number of units we have downtown, we're looking at a combined organization that employs somewhere between maybe 250 to 300 people in the downtown area. And that's a fairly sizable employer, according to the Chamber of Commerce folks. Also, when you look at the annual spend on reserve fees, sorry, not reserve, but our maintenance fees. So your operating and reserve fees that you collect from the owners, when you add that up and project that out based upon an average, based upon number of units, again, it's a gross, it varies, but we're looking at a fairly sizable dollar spend in the local economy that will get attention in terms of if you had a single company that size, that's a fairly sizable dollar spend. And so one of the things that we'll be able to use some of this information for is to add it to information we already know about how the combined information, for instance, not only the population growth that David has talked about, but when we add up all the property values that we individually spend on our properties, and you summarize that and look at the growth over the last 5 years, that's a sizable multi-billion-dollar number. And now when we can add up what our condominium associations themselves are spending in the local economy, I think it begins to create a different picture of downtown residents as just being residents and not thinking of us in terms of the business that and economy that we bring into the local downtown area. So those of you, those condos who have not yet submitted, or if you've left off financial data, I urge you to go back and talk to your board presidents, talk to your property managers, and please try and get further information submitted here. It will really help solidify this information.
Bob, have the board, have the condo representatives representing those condos who have not responded, have they been made aware of that? So the right people know who to go back to?
The 13 non-respondents have been contacted last week, and they're being contacted again this week.
I don't mean contacting the condo management. I mean the representative, so they can help goose things along.
No, but it's a good idea.
Well, I mean, hey, Bob, in the contact list, we had the contact list of both the property manager and the member representatives.
Right.
So, yeah, all along from the very first notices that went out a month and a half ago, the member representative was notified, and in the follow-up calls that Sheila has been doing, she's verified. If that's not the right person, she's come back and found, trying to find who the right person is. So there's only a few cases, but we have tried to weed
I guess
those
my
out.
question is, are they presently aware that their condo has not responded? Have we said something to them, sent out an email saying, your condo has not responded, can you help us? Can you goose them along?
No, we haven't done that, but it's an excellent idea, and I'll do it.
Good.
Okay, well, thanks, Bob, for that update. Moving along, on the city update, Kathy, do you have some things as far as a city update for us?
Yes, a couple of things. First of all, I see Peter Fanning is not on the call right now, but we did, Dsca did represent at the last city commission meeting regarding the park rules and regulations. That was all passed, the two motions that were before the board. On items of new business, one of them is on June 7th, there are two different things that are becoming before the commission. One of them is not as consequential as the other. One of them is going to be on the appointment of a public art seat. But the one that it bears maybe a discussion. I know it's coming up quickly, but again, they are going to be creating, or they're looking at the creation of a new city ordinance relating to sitting, lying on a sidewalk in a designated zone. So this is coming, it was on the, supposed to come on the agenda last March, but because of COVID, it got pushed off. It's coming before the commission again. They want to relook at that ordinance. And I'm hoping that we will have people to speak to that. I'm going to put that out to people that I know, but I'm asking if all of us and perhaps even our board would look at taking a position on this. But we need to kind of generate something, an ordinance that would have some teeth in it that would speak to this. Now, I know that the DID is very concerned about this as well. So it is coming before. I don't see that there's any motion that's being put forth before the board, but before the commission, but it is going to be coming up as a topic to be discussed. The other thing I just want to quickly mention, I sat in on the DID meeting yesterday, listened to it. Main Street again was being discussed, as well as Ernie Ritz did a presentation about moving the SCAF station, and he is looking toward advancing that along. So those were just the things that I had to say regarding what's going on at the city. I don't know if anybody else has anything to add to that.
Yeah, Kathy, the one thing I would add, you'll see mention of the Dsca did send a letter after consultation with the executive committee. I think Peter and Kathy, I believe you saw it. We did send a letter with regard to the capital improvement program.
Yep.
This is the 5-year program that was discussed at last Thursday's special city commission meeting. 3 or 4 specific things of interest to Dsca. One was 2 streetscape, well, actually 3 streetscape projects, Boulevard of the Arts, 10th, and then a Main Street. And for those, it was in your board packets, but the position Dsca kind of took on this was in support of master plans, both the Sarasota in Motion Master Plan and the Parks and Rec Master Plan, and the implementation of those. So in those plans were mention of those 3 projects I just mentioned. So that letter went out there. It was intended to be somewhat more global, and I am happy to report that it seems like certainly on Boulevard of the Arts and 10th, there was no real discussion at the meeting last Thursday, which sometimes can be a good thing. They remained as priority kind of streetscape projects. So that letter went out, and I got a couple compliments from commissioners on the tone we took in the letter, and hope everybody would agree. Any comments about that? Okay.
Hey, David.
Uh-huh.
David, I had a question for Kathy on the city commission action regarding the park hours. You said they approved both. Did they change the approval of change of that would be of who could change it? Is it still just the park director and the city manager in consultation with the attorney, or do they have to go in front of the prep board?
It would be, I believe that there was going to be language in the, I haven't seen it, but I think, I believe the language was going to be that there had to be, yes, there had to be an approval process, and also I believe an appeal process as well. So that language was going to be added in.
Thank you.
And also, I just wanted to quickly state, there's someone that did have a question. The ordinance that was going to, it was called the an ordinance of sitting, lying on a sidewalk in a designated zone.
Okay. Then moving right along to committee reports. Jamie, Associates and Events Committee, do you have an update for us, please?
Yeah, I was just going to let everybody know, remind them of our upcoming Zoom meeting on Wednesday, June 16th at 4 o'clock. And that's going to be special emergency powers for board members. And I believe the notices have gone out, so make sure you guys register.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? Will that do it?
That's it for my report.
Okay. All right. To our next item, Patrick on the Green Space Committee.
No update from the committee.
Okay. Homeless Committee, Peter is not with us today. Does anybody have anything to add to the homeless situation other than what Kathy said about some possible new ordinance looking at that? Okay. Health and Safety Committee, I've been giving a little bit of an update on COVID, and I can say that city zips are down about 59% over the last 14 days of reporting, and countywide, the numbers are down 38%. It seems like these heat maps that I've been tracking and charting, the county may be stopping issuing those with the data. They didn't come out for yesterday or today yet, so I'm not certain if those reports will remain coming our way. If they are, I will chart them but the trend has been pretty dramatic downward slope here over the last 3 to 4 weeks. So those are what the numbers are, and it's somewhat encouraging. The Transportation Committee, Roger?
Thank you. Well, a bit of gossip, I suppose. The woman who led the plan for Sarasota in Motion has taken a new job with Kinley Horn as a transportation planner. She is very talented and did a really good job with the city's Sarasota in Motion. Megan Liu is a transportation planner. I don't know if she'll take her place or not, or what they will do, but and of course, the construction of the Gulfstream roundabout continues. And there's now a 24-hour web camera that you can look at the construction in live time. Our website has the access to that. Patrick can tell us how to do that. It was supplied by Jesse Byler from Marina Towers. Continuing, of course, there are going to be changes in pedestrian access during the construction. That hasn't happened yet, but it will be happening. And of course, the construction continues. Why are we doing this? Why are we building these things? Well, it's been in the process for 12 years, and the original intent was to improve access from downtown to the bay, and the roundabouts were decided as the best way to do that. And as a matter of just repeating this, they reduced fatalities by 90%. And they also reduced crashes by 70%. There's still all fender benders in them. And it increases traffic capacity, which will really make the longboat people more happy by 30 to 50%. And they've significantly reduced noise, which is a side benefit. I just go over that because as we make our way through this, these really are being done to improve the access of the city to the bayfront, to make it safer for us, and particularly for pedestrians, which I'm in one. You get a significant reduction in pedestrian crashes from a roundabout. They're much safer than red lights. Okay, enough of that for the moment. I think we should talk about electric vehicles with Alan Friedman.
Yeah, just a very quick report. First of all, on a more global basis, the president's infrastructure bill includes $15 billion for charging stations over the next 9 years. That'd be 500,000 charging stations nationwide, which will presumably will make a tremendous impact on the increase in electric vehicles. In addition to that 15 billion, there's 100 billion earmarked for rebates that would come directly at the point of purchase. So you buy one for $35,000 and presumably you'll get up to $7,000 in a rebate. I can't think of any better incentive other than the fact that you may be able to charge your car while you drive. Both will have a great impact. On a local basis, I've reached out to the city and I'm waiting to hear back. There are two questions that I really have. One is a lot of members, about 10, 12 people have expressed an interest in learning more about installing charging stations in their buildings. Lori Gentile from Revo has done a lot of research on this. They've interviewed 5 vendors and she's got a lot of data to share. I'm interested in 2 things primarily. One is what Florida Power and Light's plans are, if any, for providing both infrastructure assistance or if not assistance, at least information, and whether or not they are going to have any kind of programs like many utilities have, that will give either discounted rates or provide some kind of incentives. It's obviously in their interest to do so. There was, on another subject, there was a webinar that on May 27th, I don't know how many watched it. We did send out a email about it. Unfortunately, I missed it as well, but they do have, they film it. And when I get a film back of it, I'll reshare that so people can see it. The final thing I want to say, and this is not about this, and I just, on the agenda, I missed the new business because Vicky and Darrell spoke. The Alinari has a new condo representative that I just wanted to introduce. She's Rosemary Krimble. She's on the board of the Alinari. And Peter, I'm having a senior moment. I can't think of his last name. In any case, he has moved, so he's no longer the Alinari rep. And Rosemary is replacing him, and I think she's on the call today. So that's my report.
I have a question for Alan. Alan, do you know whether the Revo would be willing to share the information they've gotten from the 5 vendors? Our building, our chair of our infrastructure committee is looking at electrical charging stations for our building too.
Laurie has expressed an interest and a total willingness to share information. I want to invite her onto a call with all the interested parties from all the buildings. That might be the most efficient way, certainly maybe the easiest way for her. But yeah, I'm going to see what I can arrange time-wise, and anybody from any building would certainly be welcome to join.
Great, thank you.
If that doesn't work out, then I think Laurie would be more than happy to deal directly.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
And 1350 put in charging stations. If you want to call Monica, our manager, and get information, I can send you her phone number.
That would be great. I appreciate it.
I'll email it to you.
Good.
Great. Well, thanks. Thanks very much, Alan, for that. Seems very interesting. Next, we have a zoning update. And Drew, would you like to kick things off with the zoning report, please?
Thank you, David. I just would like to talk.
Drew, I see you there.
Here I am.
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
Okay.
Briefly, 2 topics. First, it seems the planning board is recommending the redesignation of some parcels at 4th and Coconut from downtown edge to downtown core, or DTC, DTE to DTC. These parcels are between the Modern Hotel, a 5-story structure, and the 3-story condominium at Fruitville and Coconut. At downtown edge, which these parcels currently, I believe, allows for 5 stories and 25 dwelling units per acre. And it's typically along a pedestrian way or a thoroughfare way. The downtown core, which they are recommending, allows for 10 stories and 50 dwelling units per acre. And ground floor retail is permitted and in some cases mandatory. So we'll keep an eye on this, but this may be something that the board would like to discuss. Or maybe not. Secondly, I'd like to discuss noise, sound matters, specifically the increasing number of concerns being raised by city residents regarding vehicular noise and outdoor music, amplified music. The question is, does the Dsca Board of Directors feel it's an appropriate Dsca activity to facilitate a discussion with interested associations and groups, including business owners, trying to identify opportunities to manage noise, sound matters, including how best to provide feedback to the city commission. Comments, please.
Well, I was hoping that Peter Fanning would be on the call because he had a historical perspective on this, and Ken might also. Did I see you raise your hand, Ken?
Well, I do, in general, you know, we live in the urban core, and so sound is an issue. In fact, it's a plus sometimes. But there is one issue with respect to sound that is really beginning to bother me. And it's happening both on Main Street and it's happening in my neighborhood. And that is these very loud mufflers that some cars and motorcycles have. And it seems like some people have an interest in pulling up to an intersection or driving past a building and revving their engines to make it even louder. And I wonder what the city can do or this county can do to control that issue, because, you know, I understand noise. I live in the urban core, but geez, I mean, some people seem to be going out of their way to make noise.
Ken, I don't know if you were you present at the meeting that we had at the Mark regarding sound?
No.
Okay, so we did have 2 police officers. Drew, you were there for that discussion, but that was specifically talked about. It's a hard thing to enforce because unless if a car is manufactured that way and a person purchases an automobile with that on it, there's really nothing the police can do at that point because they say, oh, it was installed by the manufacturer. That's, you know, how it came. Unless they manipulated, from what I understood, and Drew, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but unless it was something that a driver did to manipulate their vehicle to make that sound, there is nothing the police can do to enforce that as it stands right now. So it is a tough one for them. It's not something that they're able to enforce. And I hear what you're saying. I think it's a broader issue for the state of Florida to figure out what it is that they can and cannot allow on vehicles that are being sold here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe what we need to do is lobby for a state law to ban those kinds of mufflers.
Yes, because I know in certain states, I mean, you know that California, they have certain vehicles that are street legal in California, but they're not legal anywhere else. So, you know, Wisconsin has certain rules about muffler noise. So it is something that I think should be looked at. I'm not sure where to go with that, but I understood police officers to say that it becomes a big issue. They have pulled people over for loud mufflers. And if the person says, look, I bought the vehicle that way, or that muffler came from the manufacturer that way, there's nothing that they're able to do about it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the city did put an electronic sign out on 41 opposite Marina Jacks that said revving your engines at a stoplight, or revving your engines in general, is a violation of city ordinance. Now, whether that's had any effect on anybody or not, I have no idea.
Well, enforcement's an important part of that. Signs don't stop it. Enforcement does.
If I just might speak to Clark's point, there was a petition that has been circulated to 18 Bayfront condominiums and has received 500 signatures. And the petition was directed to Florida Department of Transportation, headquartered in Bartow. And apparently FDOT is the entity that placed that sign there, since they are responsible for 41. It's between Ringling going north and Maine. The sign itself, which is this is a fantastic result of a petition by the citizens of the Bayfront, lasts for 3.5 days on a charge, and then must be removed by DOT to their charging station and then replaced. So what they're trying to do is make sure they can get Thursday night, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But it does say revving of engines is a city code violation. This is at least one step in the right direction. And I know exactly what Ken is talking about, because my wife and I have been at the Epicure, and these fellows drivers come to the intersection at Palm and Main and rev their engines at the stop sign. and then they leave, or maybe they'll go around the block and come back and do it again. But there is progress being made on that front, but it is slow. And the more people who want to get behind this effort, I think the better. But Florida Department of Transportation is being very responsive.
But I think we have to circle right back to what Drew's original question is. What does Dsca stand on this, and how do we, I think we have to have that discussion because we're being asked.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Well, I think one thing, Kathy, at this morning's DSA meeting, Patrick and I attended, and one of the things we have tried to reach out is to DID or DSA or other associations to see if there could be a group, shall we say, to hold a round table of interested parties. Importantly, that would the group would involve business owners, so it wasn't just
Exactly.
And Patrick, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like this is kind of a hot potato kind of matter that it seems like some of the associations are hesitant to get particularly involved. What was your takeaway from the DSA meeting this morning?
Well, on the DSA, I think the president, Mr. Atleru, was going through, following their procedures, their process of having a guest present a topic item for their consideration and taking up and voting on, essentially. So he accepted your input and request, and that he'll have to schedule that as a topic for their group to discuss, and basically have a motion or something that they can go by specifically for what next steps, how to work with us. But I think in response more to the question on the table here is, I would certainly vote in support of a motion by this board that DSCA is open and welcome to, conducting those discussions. I understand part of the reluctance is, especially from people, as Ken has pointed out, or as Peter Fanning pointed out, who were here when the current sound ordinance was revised, wherever that was, 10, 15 years ago or something. And there was a great deal of civic involvement in that. And then over time, there was also the test cases, police cases, and legal cases as to what in fact could be done to curtail it, not, et cetera. And so that's how it's been. So there was some reluctance to, well, we thought we had it resolved before. I think where we are now is, and this has come out, I know, from the groups who have met with city staff and with the police and with the attorneys, is that they recognize that enforcement is a key issue, and having the right tools in place and methods and how you do that and better procedures and so forth is part of that equation. And so I think engaging in a public thing so that we get better informed, but at the same time can continue to emphasize the need to have a balanced approach. That the city has achieved some of its goals for what we call infill. They wanted to increase density and have more people living downtown. Well, they have, and they're going to have more. And do they understand the stress on the system of more people? And yes, and at what point, how do we balance that out? And are the current rules in place sufficient? Or maybe the rules are sufficient, it just needs better enforcement. And so I think engaging in that discussion and putting in that framework, not necessarily it's going to totally revamp the entire sound ordinance, but at least it's going to have that discussion and find out where in fact it does need to be adjusted, is how I see it.
One thing I noticed just a few hours ago is it appears that the a revised sound ordinance is a discussion item or a tip on the agenda for August 17th City Commission meeting. So in the past, we have been able to, or somebody has been able to obtain a draft of the ordinance in advance. Is that something that we would want to see if we could get, as that progresses along from Bob Fournier, to see how that aligns with some of the concerns of people?
I agree. I'll do
I
it
agree.
if you want somebody to do it. I'll contact Mr. Fournier and I'll certainly try to arrange that.
And see where he is in the drafting process and so forth. I noticed also earlier today that there were some concerns raised about an event over the weekend, and you know, so this porta potty location, which isn't noise, but the collateral issues around events seems to be you know, on the table and something on Marlon's desk, and you know, in the forefront. So I'm gonna, as I mentioned, I have spoken with Lou Costa of CCNA, you know, about the interest of Dsca members. I've spoken with John Moran at DID, and more recently with Shay, and so they are aware of this issue and how collective we might go about this in a learned kind of way without sticking our necks out further than our charter in our purpose allows. So Drew, do we want to check with Fournier's office now that we know that something appears to be on the agenda a month and a half out?
Oh, absolutely. I will do that. And just let me mention, I've been traveling around the city, the entire city, and I'm getting feedback from residents in neighborhoods. And this concern about overloud noise and outdoor music is not just something that residents of downtown have. There are residents in Indian Beach, St. Armand's, Lido, Arlington Park, Laurel Park, Cherokee Park, Newtown, and in addition to downtown. So it would seem to me like maybe I'm biased, but I think that it would be great if Dsca decided to facilitate a discussion. But that's just my opinion. But I will get in touch with Mr. Fournier. Yes.
And I think my concern would be one of a facilitator. I don't think we would want to own this. I think Kathy raised a concern in an email a week or so ago about,
Right.
you know,
Right. We
want to be at the a round table versus.
Yeah, we want to be sitting at the table. We just don't want to be up ahead of it, you know. And I think we could be setting ourselves up for trouble if we try to sit at the head of a table with this. But to be honest, I mean, Drew, you know, and there's quite a energized group of citizens that are very capable of pulling this together. They know the people to go to, and I think it sounds like Dsca is available to help with that, right? I mean, we've got a very capable group of people.
I agree. My concern is that the ultimate audience is the city commission. And it's possible that if there are already existing organizations, DSA or the DID or the CCNA or Dsca, if there was some type of coordinated discussion point from those, it might hold a little more, might be a little more impressive to the city commission, because in my opinion, I may be wrong, but they are the final decision makers. And so if we don't present to them, if anything is presented to them, it needs to be something that they can raise their hands and say, yeah, we agree. So if it comes from a whole bunch of different associations, I think that's a great idea. But
I would agree. I would 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, may we leave it at this, just to be continued. We've got probably 2 meetings between now and the city commission meeting in August. So let's continue to flush this out and see if there are cooperations with DSA or whomever else might be possible. Okay, thanks, Drew.
David?
Welcome.
Yes.
David, Before we leave this topic, I would like for the board to take a little bit further action towards us. I understand that we didn't have a written report, we didn't have a written motion put before us, and so it's the board doesn't like to take votes on motions that haven't been submitted with some background material. But can we get this put into a motion that we can submit and review? Because I'd like to understand, if we're not going to facilitate, you know, can we have a role to support, to participate, something that goes on the record that yes, the Dsca board has voted and has agreed that we are taking a role or we're not. We either, you know, we vote on it or not. And so I would like to get that in front of this board in support of the residents that put it forward here in an appropriate manner.
So talk me through again, Patrick, how would form, is that for something for to be drafted between now and our next meeting?
Well, we had a non-board member put forward the ask. It takes a board member to make a motion. But as I say, we heard some verbiage. We don't have it in front of us. We don't have it to review. So trying to remember the words and trying to articulate and vote on it is not appropriate, in my opinion, at this time. But I would like to get something in writing, and I would like it to be the type of verbiage that we can support, that doesn't put Dsca out there on a limb by itself,
Right.
But then gives anyone who's officially representing Dsca, yourself, David, that it's not just your idea personally and something you'd like to see happen. It's the Dsca board that wants to have these other organizations to join in dialogue. So that's all I'm asking for. So. All right, so this could be scheduled between now and the next Dsca board meeting, or it could be, you know, but I'd just like to make sure that we're on the record that we're requesting that we'll come back with a formal motion and that we can discuss and vote on.
Okay, so then I would recommend that we table that for now, but with the view toward being back at our July 7th or whatever it is, our next board meeting, when it will be a hybrid meeting, so someone will be meeting, you know, face to face. It may be somewhat easier for discussions on this kind of thing. But is that directionally what you're talking about, Patrick?
Sure, David. I think that's fine, but I think along Patrick's thinking is that today we should just decide who's going to draft a resolution that we can discuss at the next meeting. Otherwise, we miss a month. So we have the piece.
No, I would agree.
We have the piece of
Well,
paper.
I would agree.
Would it not be appropriate? Would it be appropriate to, under Drew's leadership of the zoning committee, that the zoning committee, not Drew, but Drew with the zoning committee, which is about 5 or 6 people, that they are charged with the responsibility
That's fine with me. Sure.
of crafting a
And then, and the charge is to draft the resolution and have it available for our next meeting to either discuss, vote on, vote down, whatever, right?
Okay. Can we have just a simple consensus on that, that's the direction we'll head? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I guess that's it on zoning.
Thank you.
Thanks, Drew.
Thank
And
you.
then the next item is CCNA, excuse me,
Bay Park.
Bay Park. Bob, any updates on the Bay Park?
I do, as a matter of fact. At their board meeting on May 18th, they announced they had $6.7 million in their operating account, down from 8.5, but obviously they're spending money over there. At that meeting, they had raised 16 million of the 32 million they felt they need for phase 1. Well, that 16 million now has grown to 20 million. There was some news in the paper about a week later. The other thing that was interesting at that meeting is they're using a donut construction strategy. That is, as phase 1 is being worked on, they would like to work along the frontage on the Chamiami Trail and along the waterfront, improving walkways. They have a $100,000 grant from FDOT to do some improvements along Chamiami Trail. And, ultimately, the Canal District, which is close to my heart, which will be around 10th Street, will hopefully be the next phase that they begin work on, because it'll generate revenue. And in their phase 1 construction update, which was out today, they talked about the Uplands portion of phase 1, which is towards Tamiami Trail, where they're going to put in some concessions, and a shade structure. They're also planning to begin the kayak launch within the next 3 or 4 weeks.
Great. Patrick?
Yeah, Bob, has
Yes.
there been any discussion by the BPC board in terms of making use of the existing but empty Coast Guard auxiliary building right there in the canal, as they call it, across from the boat ramps? It's an existing building that could be cleaned up and used to as coffee or food, beverages in the afternoon, evening, sunset, people sitting on the back porch faces north. It's just an empty building. They could be generating revenue, could they not? Has that been discussed?
Patrick, if it has, I missed it, but I will contact them to see what their thoughts are for the use of that building. And one other thing, I think it'd be a good idea, is we can arrange for a group tour of that property. So if Dsca members and whomever would like to see everything that we keep talking about, we can arrange a group tour, have probably Bill Waddell lead us through where the construction is, where this is going to be, where that's going to be. And what I can do is put together contact them, try to get a date or two. It would probably be an early morning, 8:30, before it gets too hot and sticky. And maybe take an hour and a half to visit the site and get a direct report from the Bay people.
Bob, I think that's a great idea, and I know they're very amenable to it. We had some concerns regarding the lighting that they were putting in, and they invited us over and gave us a tour. I think it'd be really, really helpful, particularly for those condos who live within eyesight of it, as we do.
Yeah, we're going to absolutely do it, and I'll try to have something to everyone that perhaps in the next 2 weeks, we'll just pick a day and say, let's try to get there Wednesday, this date at 8:30 in the morning, and start start that way.
Okay, thanks, Bob.
You're welcome.
The next item, Ted Wilson on CCNA.
The CCNA hasn't met since the last time we had a meeting, and I'm still kind of at this next meeting, which is this Saturday. We're going to have a vote on the ADU, or accessory dwelling unit proposal, and so I think you're going to, later on in this meeting, you're going to have a vote on that proposal, and you'll give me some direction at that time. If I could comment on a couple of things. Alan, on the FPL and helping on the infrastructure on electric vehicles, I've talked to several of their representatives, and they do not seem to be interested at this moment on doing that. And I know we're over here at the Regency House looking to put in some charging stations, and they don't seem to want to help at all right now. So that's just part of the life. There is also, thinking about FPL, if I can go back into my prep board seating hat right now, there is great concern on the prep board right now about the solar project that the city is engaged in with FPL. And right now, the benchmarks that FPL has put out to pay for making the city 100% energy self-sufficient, so to speak, are not being met. And it's going to become a topic, I think, pretty soon that all of us are going to be aware of, because it's going to cost the city a lot more than they thought for that project, than when they're putting in all these solar panels, and they're just not as effective And we don't know if they're bad solar panels, if they over projected or what, but there's some problems coming up there. One of the other things that I'd like to have, while I've got the floor a little bit, David, that I'd like to have, and I know Patrick can help on this possibly. Several of the webinars I've attended on the Zoom have had voting capabilities with them. And I think that we could have some instant response, so to speak, some subjects, just like what Drew brought up. If we could have a quick survey thrown up on the screen and everybody could say yes, no, maybe, or whatnot on it. And it would give us directions and so forth on several subjects that could be done. Now, I don't know if our Zoom contract has that capacity in it or not, but I sure think it would be something that we ought to take a look at. So anyway, those are my comments for right now.
And Patrick, help me out on this ADU matter. I've seen your email of earlier today, and I reached out to Clark and Jamie on this, and help me through this from a parliamentarian, point of order kind of standpoint on the ADU and what we've done, and because Ted is going to need direction for a meeting coming up before we meet again.
Well, the item simply needs to be decided. The minutes from last May's meeting stated that the board passed it to the executive committee to address the item that was requested by CCNA. And if you like, I can put that up for the minute. And if you want to do a full board vote or an executive committee vote, we could do that. So
I think that would be wise, if you would, please.
make sure I got the right thing here. So essentially, this was the motion that CCNA had sent around. It's a resolution with 4 items in it, and they simply asked whether you endorse all 4 or any number of those. And so on behalf of the Board Executive Committee, I would make the motion that the Dsca board directs its representative to CCNA to vote affirmative or yes on supporting all 4 items of the ADU resolution. That's my motion, David.
I'll second that. Are any of these particularly contentious?
Yes.
I don't know the background on this stuff.
From the downtown standpoint, as I understand it, the downtown zone districts are already opted in to the city's ADU program. In other words, there's already a city ADU ordinance out there that allowed for different neighborhoods to opt in. And so this was being updated along the lines here, and the one thing that was being suggested by previously by CCNA was that it still be an opt-in process. As I understand it, at a previous recent city commission meeting, some of the commissioners said, well, why don't we just make it total citywide? And that was the residents or the neighborhoods pushback was, no, we don't want it to be imposed on every neighborhood. So even though it's already applicable in the downtown zone districts, again, it only applies, as I understand, to single family homes. Property zoned for single family is where I stand. So it doesn't really affect condominiums.
Well, I couldn't, can I speak? I couldn't support this motion because the only part of it I understand is number 1. 2, 3, and 4, I need more information on. I don't know what they're talking about. So I think it's too early to decide whether we can support the motion.
Well, I've been involved in a lot of these conversations, and as you said, Ken, number one is relatively easy to understand. Number two, the difference between the 120% and the 100% is considerable, evidently, in that they are afraid that what many people in the CCNA were concerned about is that the rental value of these houses would be above what their intended purpose is, which be being able to take and support some of the staff that works downtown and in the area where there was less expensive housing. At the 120%, it's almost out of reach for many of the workers that are in downtown. So the CCNA is trying to get the city council to reduce the average median income of the people that would be in these houses. The second one, Patrick glossed over one subject that has been changed in the ordinance when you read the details in the ordinance. And the city commission put in citywide, and everybody got screaming about it and said they didn't want to have it citywide. They wanted to have their each stint. Then the commission came back and they have changed the ordinance to where they've excluded all the barrier islands. And that has upset the downtown, the CCNA people even more, in that they have taken allowed an exclusion for the barrier islands, but they haven't for the inland communities in the city. So that's a problem right there. And they are encouraging, as a replacement for number 3, to take and have the ADU overlay proposal that was made on February 17th. And that one is a little bit more detailed as far as zoning types as opposed to neighborhoods, in that there's RFM 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 9. And each one of those has a different requirement within this zoning ordinance. So those are the 3 things that are in contention right now within the commission, within the CCNA. And I tell you the truth, especially in regards to number 3, I have no idea how they're going to come out voting, because that is real, because we have on the CCNA, we have several people from the barrier islands represented in the CCNA, and they are dead certain against this proposal of having any ADUs on the barrier islands. I don't know if that helps you or not.
Well, it helps, but it's not quite enough.
Yeah, just not to be persnickety about this, but the second item on this talks about the 100% of the average median income. It's either the average or the median income, but it's not both. So they're self-contradictory. So there's a certain sloppiness to this that sort of makes you wonder if it's totally thought through.
I would have to say that I somewhat get 1, 2, and 3. I do. What I'm confused on is number 4. And you said that was probably one of the more complicated ones.
Yeah. You have to go into the ordinance itself in detail to get it all. The ordinance right now is almost 17 pages, and a lot of its graphs or charts, I should say, that relate to zoning classifications within, in particular, not neighborhoods, but streets, to where they have. And of course, Patrick can probably define this better than I can, in that, we've got this RMF, different classifications for residentially zoned houses.
Well, we should be a lot more careful on our vote. We don't want to give our votes away. We want to be smart about the kind of votes we cast.
Mm-hmm.
So we can.
Yes, Ken, that's
I agree.
I'm kind of with you, Ken. I'm just not too sure how much this has to do with downtown. And our organization should be basically concerned with downtown issues.
Mhm.
Excuse me, everybody. This is Lou Costa. I'm sitting here. If I may be allowed to talk, I could probably explain this just a hair better, if you want me to.
Hair better isn't enough, Lou.
Well, I can pretty much do number 2 very easy.
Well, we've got 4 points here. I think we need to take a vote and get along, move along.
Excuse me, David's the chair of the meeting here, please.
Thank you, Patrick. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm it seems to me there are enough uncertainties that is this something that if it is going to be brought up at a CCNA meeting that that Dsca would wish to abstain on this, as either we don't have that much of a vested interest, or certain members feel that there are some vagaries in the 4 items that we are not understanding.
This is above my pay grade at this point. I really don't understand this well enough to vote.
Correct.
This is right.
Agreed.
I would have to agree with
Right.
that statement as well.
Me too.
Well, then, shall we then have a motion that Dsca will ask Ted to abstain on this? May I make that motion?
Point of order. You have a motion on the table that's been seconded.
So let's take a vote.
Do you wish to have that motion withdrawn and a new one submitted then, David?
Yes.
I withdraw the motion. If the second withdraws also.
Thank you, Patrick.
The motion,
the motion withdrawn.
New motion will be that Dsca abstain, ask Ted, direct Ted to abstain on this matter as Dsca's representative. Is there a second? Or I make that
Second.
motion? Okay.
Yes, I would second the motion.
Okay.
I would agree with that. I will vote in favor of it. I just think at that meeting, it should be amplified that we're abstaining, not because we either like it or dislike it, but that we just don't have enough information. And it's just not possible for us to reach a conclusion absent that information. I think it deserves an explanation of why we're abstaining. So people wouldn't think
Okay.
it's because
Any
we're
other?
Dsca downtown.
Yeah. David, I would respectfully request that the DSCA rep to CCNA not put forward that reasoning. This information, at least this particular item we're looking at right here, was submitted to us a month ago. It was not submitted and sent out to the board, so the board did not have advantage to discuss this prior to this time. It's got to be the CCNA vote on Saturday. I think the another more rational reason is that the DSCA is already under the existing ADU rules and has not studied, is not able to take a matter to change it one way or the other. So, I mean, yes, it is a complex thing, but to say that we didn't have enough information seems to imply that it was not provided to us. There was access to more detailed information should we wanted to delve into this. But at the month ago, when the DSCA board met, this item was brought up and the DSCA board voted to delegate this to the executive committee. So that's all I have to say on the matter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, this said, then what is our motion on this? That we are asking Ted to abstain on this for the reason that Patrick reiterated then?
I don't know. You have to give a reason.
Okay.
It's up to you.
So simply okay, but we a motion to direct Ted to abstain on this matter at the CCNA meeting. Do we have a second to that?
Second.
Okay, all those in, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Right.
Okay, anybody opposed? and we unanimously adopted. Thank you. Anything else, Ted?
No, not at this time.
Okay. All right. Next item is Rosemary District update. I think I covered that in the remarks about the CIP. The only other thing I would say is on the park, Rosemary Park, a recommendation has been made for the design firm to handle the work. This developed in cooperation with Jerry Fogel, and an announcement on that firm selection should be made in a matter of days. And that work is intended to move forward. As far as funding for the park, that remains complicated, but the park does remain in the CIP budget as a priority item. So I think that's all I have for the moment on the Rosemary situation, unless anybody has any questions. Moving to Jamie, Platinum Association news highlights. Could you help kick off this segment of our meeting, please?
Yeah, I think Kristen's here. Are you here, Kristen? She usually leads that.
I'm here. Thanks, Jamie, and thanks to the board for having us. Really appreciate being a part of it and supporting your efforts. And it's always interesting to hear what's going on. So great program today. It's very interesting. We just have a few of us on today. So if you could bear with us and hear from our Platinum sponsors. I believe Jake House is here from First Service. Still here, Jake? Did you go to dinner?
His mic is muted.
Your mic, you're kind of a static. Can you unmute yourself?
He's still muted.
Yeah. Okay, Jake. I'm going to see if we can come back to you. You got some technical difficulties going on there. Great picture. I love that. Dee, our local hired killer. I think you're out there somewhere, aren't you?
I've been killing stuff all day. Hello, everybody. Good to see everybody again. It's been a while. Glad to see that we got a little bit of movement in town, because I was just downtown, and I'm telling you, it's looking real good. And I think that all the work that everybody's been doing is outstanding. I'm proud to be a part of it. I am. I'm not proud to be part of the killing. Proud to be part of this group. Be glad when we get together in person today. And the meeting. Keep up the good work. And if you got something you need killed, give me a call. Has to have
So
more.
glad to hear that. So glad to hear that Dee is killing it.
She's still killing it. Thanks, Dee. Jake, did you get your mic working? Jake, no?
Sorry, guys. As soon as I started talking, it kicked me off. I'll be brief. My name is Jake House with First Service Residential. We are big time supporters of the Dsca. Love what you all do and the time you put into the city, into your communities. We're proud to manage 8 different communities in downtown Sarasota with about 100 employees in downtown. So we're a large employer in downtown Sarasota. Proud to be a part of this group. Thanks for having us, and keep up the great work.
Thanks, Jake. He does management of associations with First Service Residential. I heard somebody say, what does he do? Thank you, Jake. I've never, ever known you without a beard, so that was really freaking me out. You should have warned us that you shaved. That would leave me. I represent a portfolio of clients. 4 of them are Platinum members. So with insurance rates hikes this year, CBIZ Insurance is your go-to team because it's all about service and knowledge. So you want someone there when a disaster strikes, and you want to know that they know that you're covered. Forge Engineering is a 24-year-old structural engineering firm. They only do association work. So reserve studies, turnover reports, project management on your structural projects, they can handle it. They are 3 weeks out for your proposal. Just so you know, competing engineering companies in our area are 8 to 10 weeks out on proposals. So 3 weeks sounds pretty good. Professional plumbing, they can handle all of your 24-hour service calls and pipelining projects. So if you want to get that started this summer while your board members are away, it's a good time to give them a call. Just remember, when in doubt, call the professionals. And then lastly, right way emergency services. They can handle all of your water, fire, mold, biohazard emergencies. They are licensed contractors. They can clean you up fast. They also offer a Matterport video, which is a 3D video of all of your internal and external assets of your property. It's free in your emergency response program, which is their disaster plan for your building. If you need to get in touch with any of these service providers, you can let me know and I can put you in touch with the right person. So again, thanks to you, David and Patrick and all the board for putting your efforts together. I have been helping out on the survey, just so you know. I put that in the chat room. So Sheila and I are, Bob, reaching out to these people and my contacts there, and they're all very receptive. So I think you might have about 10 to 12 in the works that are coming your way. So
perfect. David?
Fantastic. Yes, Patrick.
I have a question for Kristen. So with June here, the last month of the first half of the year, the Platinum Associate members are due to send out a email blast on a topic of relevance. So I hope that is in the planning works for that. And we have some, get ready, for providing some good information for that too. And also continue to emphasize that the events page for associate events, we should send out some sort of update to all of the associate members, advising them to, make use of it. There had been a problem in the past of getting the notices published, when they get submitted, but I think that's been all resolved. We're getting the notifications when they submit it, they're reviewed and then published usually within 1 to 2 days. So.
Yeah, we don't have any problem. Taylor's been getting those on fairly easily. I think mine are the only ones up there, but I'll definitely make sure that we get the word out that it's a lot easier, the process now. Jamie and I have scheduled a meeting to talk about the blast and the live event coming up in the fall. So we're going to be meeting next week about that.
Terrific. Anything else, Kristen?
No,
is that it?
That's it.
Okay. As far as our next board meeting, we, thanks to help from Kathy, the Marks Club Room, I believe it's called, is being made available to us. We have that reserved. It will accommodate up to around 65, I believe, at max capacity. And we are planning on a Zoom hybrid. So between Kathy and I and their management, we're going to do a test a couple days in advance and then an hour in advance. So stay tuned for further information about that. But the mark on July 7th at the normal time. So we look forward to having a number of us in person, and again, appreciation in advance to the mark. So I think that's all I have. Is there any other comments from member representatives that people would like to make?
Well, David, I'd just like to point out that the Embassy House has a new member representative, and she's on the call today, Sue Lair. So I want to welcome her to the board meeting.
Yeah, well, thanks for introducing her, and welcome, and we look forward to your participation. So thanks, Ken, for that. Any other final
Thank you all.
If not, we're just a tick late, but better than last month. So thanks, everybody.
Hey, I forgot one thing. One thing, David, that I think a lot of you would be interested in that Bob didn't bring up. On the Bay's website, if you go to their menu and go down to the live views, they have got an osprey nest that's really fun to watch. You might want to go look at it. There's 3 chicks and a mother in there watching watching over those chicks. So go to the Bay's website and look at the menu and say the live in, and you can watch the baby chicks and the ospreys.
Okay, well, great. A nice way to end the meeting. Have a good day, everybody. Thanks.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Ted. Thanks, Ted.